now they've of course changed all that. But. So then the only thing I could do then was either start over again when I got back west, or else go into public information, which was my professional line of work, legislative affairs, and so I did that.
So you were doing line work, basically line overhead work, before you went back to Washington.
Correct.
And PAO when you came back.
Yeah.
So back on the jumping, what do you remember? Do you remember any good stories that you actually saw happen when you were jumping? Overall,
good stories. I mean,
you know, things that happened. People, you saw things happen to people. People did jumpers.
Oh, there's tons of them. I remember in Alaska, you jump in some of these god-awful places, and sometimes you get stranded because of smoke. And so there's a bunch of us that jumped as an overhead, and they brought in a whole bunch of Elliott crews. And then they got smoked.
Elliott native crews?
Yeah, native crews. And so then it got smoked in, and we had hardly any rations. And so I always jumped with a fishing pole throughout my whole career. Even in Silver City, I'd take my fishing pole. Small one, you know, just put it in my personal gear bag. And so I said, you know, we're right on this stream, but there's grayling in here. And so literally, my job, until my arms started to hurt, was catching grayling. And there was assembly line. I mean, I would put it on, and then another guy would take it off, another guy would walk it up, and we had those big, remember the old 5-gallon metal containers?
Yeah.
And they'd done a trench, and they were smoking them right there in the spot, you know, right on the spot. And then finally, we had, you know, some of the guys, the natives would go and get little things, and I'd give them some line off of my little spinning reel, and a hook, and a little bit of, you know, just anything. And so there were people out there fishing. I mean, so that was probably the best assignment I'd ever had.
Well, do you remember the fire we were on together where you had your fishing pole under your PG bag, and they put us in the wrong place on the map and took a while to find us?
Which fire?
Up in Alaska. Remember the name of the
How
fire?
many were in the crew?
There was 4 of us maybe. The fire was called 4D2.
Oh,
and the chopper came in unexpectedly. We had to vector it in. Do you remember that at all?
Is that the one where I left my Woolrich shirt there? Because
I don't
be
know.
back real quick.
I don't know about that. I remember we talked a lot about Vietnam.
Yeah. You know, tell you the truth. I mean, you know, you and I talked different times, but I don't remember.
Yeah, okay.
I honestly don't remember that
Yeah.
time. I remember cooking lake trout on a shovel in Alaska.
Yeah.
And I remember, who's the guy? I was with Murray Taylor. Of course, I had my fishing gear. And we were using, and I didn't have heavy stuff, heavy enough, because I was losing all my tackle catching lake trout. And so he had what was called then a woodsman's pail, I think. And so I would have just a piece of cloth on a string, my rod. Murray would be hunkered over one of those hammock deals. And so I'd bring the pike up along it, and then he'd whack it, take its head off. And then we cooked them on a shovel.
Yeah,
Menno Troyer, who trained with us, was on that fire, because it's been maybe only 5 or 6 years ago, his wife got a hold of me and wanted to know if I had photos of that, because Menno remembered that story. He ended up going up in Flathead. He was a packer for the Forest Service.
Yeah, I remember cooking.
He was the one that was Mennonite.
Yeah, I remember cooking was it pike from the lake, northern pike, on a shovel where we were together.
Well, then Menno was on that fire.
Yeah, maybe.
Because we went down and we buried our sea rats. We went down to a lake and a grumman goose got us.
Yeah.
Was that the one?
Well, no, a grumman goose was supposed to get us, but a twin rotor helicopter came and got us. But maybe it's a different fire.
I don't know. I spent a lot of time in Alaska with a lot of different guys.
Well, now, do you remember going down to Morrison, Arizona?
I do.
What was that all about?
Well, we never quite knew until someone would take us into a little room wearing skinny ties and black suits and wanted us to talk to us about making a lot of money someplace in Southeast Asia.
So, how many of you were there?
There was probably a dug load.
Oh, that many?
Yeah, we were on our way somewhere else. I mean, it was kind of an intermediate stop. Maybe we were on our way to California or something. So it was just kind of a quick little stop.
So what happened down in Morrison?
I said no.
So they just take you into a room there and
Yeah.
talk to you?
Oh, yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And, you know, a lot of the guys that I knew and jumped and went ahead and did that, and they came back with a bunch of money, and, or else they didn't come back at all. I mean, that was part of the deal.
yeah. How much money were they offering?
It's, you know, it seems to me it was 50 grand tax-free
Yeah,
for a year,
yeah.
but I could be wrong.
How long, was it just a mix of jumpers, or were people who were senior? Just anybody who knew how to jump, or?
Anyone who wanted to kick cargo, basically, because that's what they were looking for, was cargo kickers. They weren't expecting us to jump. But,
Yeah,
you know, people that had experience with, you know, small aircraft and low altitude work,
yeah. Huh.
which, you know, most of us did after a period of time. I can't remember what years that was, but it's probably early 70s, mid 70s.
Yeah. So at Silver City, what was Silver City like?
It was great.
So how many times were you down there?
Oh, well, probably 3 or 4. I was on several boosters. One time I went down and replaced someone. I kind of specialized in kind of getting out of Missoula, replacing people at the end of the year, especially when I was still in college, because Penn State, you know, you didn't get back to school until late September, and a lot of the school teachers had to leave in August. So, you know, I'd go to Grangeville or Yellowstone or Silver City.
So Silver City, I've never been there, so is there a place guys hung out, or what?
Yeah, that bar's still there too.
What was
By
it?
then I was drinking. When I knew you, I didn't drink, but of course I was only 19 years old too. But what's the name of it? Oh, geez, I've been down there rather recently, and I recognized it. I can't remember.
So they.
But we used to. I've got a photo of me asleep. We're on a hammock underneath a reefer, and I got my PG bag laying there. Someone took it, I didn't. And there's my fishing pole and all that stuff, you know.
That was your trademark, I remember.
That was
now.
my trademark, yep.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm glad you had it on the fire we were on together. That's what we ate. What about West Yellowstone? What do you remember about that?
Oh, that was wonderful. That was considered the Playboy base.
Why was that?
I just because all those young ladies that worked at Smith and Chandler and in the park and
the summer employees.
You know, all the hot potting and parties. And the year I was down there, Nelson was our foreman, and so we rented a cabin up on Hebgen Lake, and he didn't think much of that. But you know, we had to get away from the base in order to, you know, have entertainment. And Charlie Harsh, Ron Pierce, both of them were Silver City boys. They were on that crew, and Sweeters and Frank Grover and Jerry Smith and Bill Neumeister. I mean, we had a lot of fun. And the jumping was nice too. It was high altitude, but you know, it was really nice jumping in the park. We jumped in the Tetons too.
What do you mean by nice jumping? Was it easy on the ground, or good country to look at, or what do you mean by nice jumping?
All the above. And there weren't a lot of rocks.
Yeah.
Silver City was terrible to jump.
Yeah. What about Grangeville?
Grangeville was nice. I jumped out of Grangeville 2 years, and then of course went over on booster cruise. I remember we had 100 fire one year. It would have been, it probably was either 69 or 70. Like I said, I didn't have to go back to school early. And we literally, I mean, it was ridiculous, but we had to get climbing gear, ropes, so we could put out the fire. And it was at the end of September, and it was in Goat Rocks. I mean, you couldn't get there without roping yourself.
Huh.
And who was the jumper in charge? I'd have to look at my old diary, I guess.
Was it back in the Selway, or where was it?
Yeah, it was in Selway.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
And then, you know, we'd get in and out of what's the little airstrip inside there?
Moose Creek?
Moose Creek. And there was a fella named Emo Keck on that district. And you didn't jump in the wilderness very often. The Emo didn't show up. He would hike up there and make sure you were doing what you needed to do and you weren't burying your cans. And he and his wife Penny were just known for all kinds of amazing things.
Huh.
So he was kind of a crusty character. And then I got, one year Nels Jensen who went on to be the head pilot of the Forest Service. I could tell stories, but I won't do that on tape. Yep. He was trying to get ours as a flight instructor. And so there at the air base, you know, I could rent a 172 for $15 an hour, and that included the gas. And so, you know, I did some flying and did my solo work. And I never did get licensed because I didn't have the money to have a plane, so, but that was fun. I have an old photograph of me and Jerry Smith, one other guy, you know, how to cut your shirt after you've soloed, you know, it's kind of some kind of ritual.
Huh, didn't know about that.
And Dean Peterman, but he already had his license. And he's gone now, Dean is.
So you got through that many jumps, that many years, you never had an accident?